Hey, what's up guys? Pierre speaking. I'm making some videos to review my own work that I did 9 years ago on this car when I did the manual swap, which was my third swap. We're gonna go over critical parts, hint, tips that I have to give you about the subject, how I've done it. This car, like I said, has been done 9 years ago, 90,000 miles on it, still a daily driver, super reliable. So there's no reason why your swap wouldn't be reliable. So that's the main purpose of this video, to cover some of the overlooked part that is always left unexplained or something. So that's the whole purpose of this video. I hope you will appreciate. Now, before we go any further, as you notice, this doesn't really belong there. It just happened that I had to change the exhaust manifold on that engine. So there's a lot of stuff that is out, which makes it even easier for me to film this whole deal here. Let's talk about the cable, the firewall adjuster, and the firewall brace. When I did the manual swap back in 2009, I've installed the cable as is directly on the firewall. I've drilled the hole, of course, and the cable was resting directly on the firewall. It took a couple of weeks before the firewall finally almost gave up. The firewall was flexing a lot for obvious reason, because of all of the stress and load of the cable, and I was getting not so great clutch engagement or disengagement. So I came up with this, which was better than nothing, but it was still sitting directly on the firewall. So later on I came up with what is known as the firewall brace, which is a pretty thick piece, 3/16 of an inch, all steel. It's shaped like that, so it sits perfectly on the layout of the on the firewall. There's a lip under the wiper tray where you can actually drill a hole through this and use a bolt or a rivet, whatever you want. So it's basically putting the load on the top here and at the bottom, so you're getting rid of the flex, and you will get way better clutch disengagement, way better feeling, more precise, and of course you will not go through your firewall within a few weeks. So that was a key element to the success of this swap. Another key element is the cable itself. Back in 2009 I used this exact cable, which is from Ford, for a 04 Mustang. Now, I've tried different set of cables over the years. I've done several manual swap. People brought me their own parts and whatnot. So I've been around the corner a few times, and so far the OEM cable outlasts any other ones. Keep in mind, this cable has been on my car back in 2009, and after that it went on that car for the last 9 years. He put 90,000 miles on it, so that cable must have, like, I don't know, 140 150,000 miles on it, and it's still super reliable. It's the original cable. Now I know there's kits that comes with a Ford Racing cable, Stita cable, or other brand. I had no good experience with other cables. The quality is not exactly the same, and I just can't describe how they're made, but the Ford cable seems to have more strands into it. The lining seems to be better quality. I don't know, it's just like, here it is. One thing you should do, all you have to do, is to get rid of the the grommet there, so the firewall adjuster fits just like that directly on the plastic of the cable. So I had to do that, and then it really helps if you're putting engine oil into the sleeve, into the lining of this cable. This will make everything very smooth. See, there's some, I know the cable is coiled, but there's still some restriction, you know. It's not that great. Even if I uncoiled this cable, bear with me, I'm doing this with one hand. No, it still has some restriction, you know. It's and you hear it too, you know. So so that's for the cable. I ran it directly from the firewall there. It goes all the way to the stud there. It makes a big loop. It goes down there. Sorry, it's kind of hard to film. So, you know, it's making a big nice loop. Now it's sitting against the lower steering shaft, but it was not the case until I removed the tie rod that was holding it away from that. And then, as you probably can see, I'm gonna try to zoom in, then it goes to the transmission. So there's no tight twists. The cable was pretty free in terms of there's no sharp radius or anything like that. So that really helps the routing of the cable. I've seen people going there and then making a sharp turn to go under the engine mount on the cross member and then going straight. I've never done it before, but I don't see how it would be better than having this big nice loop and then just going down to the transmission. Let's take a look at the cable from under the car. Now, once again, bear with me, it's kind of difficult to get a great shot from under the car with the lights, but you get to see where the cable is coming down. Like I said, it's currently sitting by the lower steering shaft, but that bracket here that used to hold the cable for the automatic transmission, it's been reused. I've put some loom over the cable, and just with a little bit of tension, see, there's barely any tension on it. I can move it with my pinky. So I used a tie wrap just to move it away from the lower steering shaft so it doesn't rub on it, and then it goes directly to the transmission. So there's like a very nice radius, not too sharp. So that's the key. I've seen people running their cable through here, so I don't know actually how they managed to go around the oil filter and whatnot, but like I said, I think that's pretty much the best way to do it. And of course it's kind of sitting on the frame there, but it never moved out of there. So now about the clutch fork. There used to be, of course, a cover here, a little clip to hold the cable. Now it's been a little bit of a debate, or something that was overlooked even when I did the swap. There's some new information regarding this. I'm gonna try to go as detailed as possible without losing you guys. There's a few things that needs to be taken in consideration. The fork position here should be further back here. It shouldn't be parallel to the clutch. It should be pretty much like around here. So mind you, it doesn't look like much, but it changes a lot the geometry of the fork. and by having the fork sitting like that, you're kind of losing some momentum or some leverage effect. This is caused by the pressure plate fingers. Oddly enough, this was a stock replacement for a 2004 Mustang, which is like a very stock clutch and pressure plate, because that car is a daily driver, so it doesn't need anything fancy regarding this. And it happens that the fingers are actually aiming inwards, while some other clutch kit from the same company or different company, different brands, some of them have the fingers outwards, which of course will change the position of the fork. Now, another thing that needs to be considered is sorry for that, I'm just trying to get a good shot. So as you can see here, well, kind of hard to tell, but the fingers are inwards, so of course the throwout bearing is sitting way deeper into the hole, so that's why the fork is sitting at this position while it should be further back. And another thing that worth mentioning is, yes, the throwout bearing is always making constant contact with the fingers, and this is really important. It's meant like that, it was designed like that, and that's how it should be performed. Of course, there are ways to install that throwout bearing on the fork. It's kind of hard to cover right now for obvious reasons, but there's plenty of videos that show you how to do that, how to mount the pivot stud, how to lubricate crucial spots. So that will be covered. And of course, what some people considered as black magic, bearing preload. Bearing preload, in my own words, would be the amount of pressure you're putting on a bearing. I think that's pretty much it. So, that's my cable here. So, it's not super tight. It is tight. There's no slack. Nothing is moving back and forth too much. But there's a little bit of play. There's a little bit of give. Same goes for the pressure plate. I still can slightly push it forward or pull it back. So it's not too tight. It's not too loose. There's actually no slack on the cable whatsoever. So that's how you're getting a proper engagement. If the cable is too loose, of course you're going to lose a lot of travel on the pedal before you start moving things and applying pressure on the fingers, and thus releasing the clutch. And it's even worse if you're doing the hydraulic kit, because if this is not resting on the fingers, I meant the throwout bearing, well, you'll be losing a lot of momentum. You're going to be losing a lot of stroke before. Basically, you will be running out of stroke before you fully release the clutch. So that will be covered in another video, but just I thought it was worth mentioning. So cable there, very crucial step. And let's move out to the next component. I should have mentioned that way earlier into the video, but this is a Tremec 3650 out of a 04 Mustang. That's actually my first own transmission before I got another 3650 with upgraded parts such as a 26 spline input shaft and whatnot. So that unit was a rebuild when it went into his car. Like I said, once again, 90,000 miles on it. Seems to be leaking a little bit of oil at the tail shaft. Nothing too crazy, but that's going to be addressed later on. I didn't do anything special besides everything that's been covered into my other video, which I'm not going to go through again. Neutral safety switch is connected right here in there. Neutral safety switch. This is actually your transmission range sensor. Please route your cables away from the cats. There's plenty of spot to use tie wraps so it gets out of the way. Cross member, just make sure that you have plenty of room around here for you know, everything kind of rocks back and forth or left and right when the car is moving or you're stepping on the gas, so that needs to be taken care of. And also that's one of the issues a lot of people are having. Sorry for that. You need to have like a good clearance between the transmission and the trans tunnel. There's a hump there. Don't be afraid to cut more than you think. That is, some of you may have that kind of vibration. So, sorry, the heat is on. You will have that kind of vibration when making a left turn. That's because your transmission is basically just rubbing on the floor pan, so just make sure that you have a lot of room around. So that's pretty much how it looks like on an 05 Plus car. The biggest difference is, of course, in 05 Ford started to use the electrical gas pedal instead of the cable actuated one before on the 04. So that gas pedal is actually mounted on another bulky pedestal, so it didn't have enough room with the first version of my pedal, so I ended up moving gas pedal to the right to clear the path for the clutch quadrant. Then all of the kits came with the pedal bracket to move that out of the way. Now a lot of people have been asking what are the dims for that and stuff. The thing is, that was part of a whole package, and it's not because you got the dims that it's gonna work. It's fairly simple. You just have to mount a plate that matches the layout of the original plate, and then you weld your piece just far enough so you clear the path for the clutch quadrant. So not gonna really cover that much right now, but at least you'll get a good look on how it's fitting there. So you got a lot of room, well, a lot. You still have some room on both sides to do the job. So this is one of the very early pedals I've made, the V1s. It hasn't been retrofitted or anything like that. It's just been running like that ever since. I think I had to shorten the clutch cable itself. That was a request from the owner, but that's about it. So I'll take that out of the vehicle and we'll be able to take a look at it. So here you get to see the two pedals side by side. This is the actual one that I made in 2009, and that's the one I've made a few years later for Jeremy. Now Jeremy has like the very first version of the pedals. This is exactly what you get to see on my how-to video. It has its flaws, but I mean it's better than nothing. On that version, I used to take that of the Mustang assembly, weld it on top of the housing, and then weld the tube on top of it. But the thing is, of course, as you can see it's fairly thin, so it was once again never meant to take that sort of views, especially if you're running a very stiff clutch kit. So you would like it's happening right here, kind of hard to see on the camera. But there's actually a airline crack right here that goes from the corner all the way here, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Sometimes I've seen those welds giving up too on either side. So you would have like the whole top flexing like that every time you would press on the clutch, which is far from being ideal. So I came with a solution. So that's this U-shaped that you kind of just slide over it like that. You weld it on top, and that's how you get this done. So it welds at the bottom here, so it gives more support, more strength, and it really does the job. So I ran this setup for quite a few years until Chris's V2 pedal assembly, and then I ended up putting the hydraulic kit on my car 4,000 or 5,000 miles ago. So it's been super reliable so far. Yeah, that's the very original one, which is not for sale. Sorry guys, I'm keeping that one. That one, I mean, if somebody wants it, it's really up to you, but it doesn't really worth much nowadays. It works, but you know, would still need some upgrades, so I don't know. So that's about it for the pedals. Another thing to take in consideration is the clutch quadrant. It comes in many sizes, many shapes. Ford Racing and Steeda are actually the same thing, very same thing. That's the McLeod that came with the hydraulic kit that could be retrofit on the Crown Vic and on the Mustang. Very expensive kit, used to go for like $800. It failed twice, so it's been replaced one time under warranty, and on the second time never heard from this guy again. So it was going to be a great solution, but it's been reported a lot of issues with those kits, so I don't know. For the price of it and failing within a few months, it was kind of not a great thing. That's the one that was on Jeremy's car for the last 9 years. That's one that used to be on Dave's car, which another manual swap that I've done many years ago. And Dave had lots of issues with his transmission and clutch and pressure plate and whatnot. He holds the record of breaking cables on almost a weekly basis. Up to this day, we're still not sure of what happened or why he was snapping cables one after one, but he was running a center force dual friction kit, and it was stiff as hell. So that's actually his quadrant, so you can see that it's worn out pretty badly. That's how like a good running one should look like. So that car had a lot of issues that we never really sorted out until we parted out the car. So at some point the car itself was getting in pretty bad shape, so kind of gave up on that. So, but I still would have liked to know what happened exactly. That's the one that was on Jeremy's car, so once again you can tell that the alignment was spot on, so no wear on either side, unlike on Dave's, which Dave was, I think, the second manual swap I was doing, so there's been a lot of R&D on his car too, so I mean, you get to see that it's a different world in between those two. So yeah, so all that to say that the manual swap is a great swap. It has its flaws, it has its pros and cons, but it's so much fun to drive once it's manual swapped. So I hope it covers a lot of little things that's been overlooked over the years. Now you get more info why things are being done this way and whatnot. So hopefully this will result into a lot of positive ideas coming out of this. Next video I will be covering the installation of the hydraulic kit on the Panther. The hydraulic kit that kind of suppressed the clutch cable kit somewhere last year due to the lack of parts available mainly, and as an upgrade to the clutch system. I know it's the debate still rage on whether you guys want to go cable or want to go hydraulic. Either kit has their pros and cons. At the end of the day, it's really up to you which one you're gonna get. But yeah, so that completes this video. So stay tuned for more video on the matter. Thanks for watching once again. As far as the cables, I was mentioning that you have to get rid of the slack on the cable. If it's beyond the firewall adjuster, you may have to use those little end links that you slide over the cable, and then you just hammer them down. So depending of the clutch quadrant you're using, you will have to use either one or several like that until it clears the path. Now, I was bragging all about the OEM cable at first, and bad surprise when I took it out of the car. Looks like it was going to give up any day soon. There's literally very few strand left on this cable, so it was really going to give up any time soon. So, I mean, I guess, well, it still lasts 13 years, so I guess that's a good run for a cable. That's another proof that, you know, everything has its pros and cons and has its flaws. Look, it did 13 years, so I would be more than happy with that. But, you know, while I was driving it the last few days before taking everything apart, I haven't noticed anything that would give me an idea that this was about to give up. So anyways, that's part of the game. Long story short, I would still not hesitate to buy another OEM one, even though it's not double price. You know, it's a bit more expensive, but not the end of the world. So you get to hear what kind of hard with the end-link, but there's very little friction. I can't hear much of the cable and the lining, so you know, I wouldn't hesitate to recommend this cable once again. But yeah, it failed just like any other one. So that pretty much cover up the cable issue here.